So is your baby too big or is your pelvis too small for a vaginal birth? CPD is when baby and the pelvis are not proportioned well to one another. So baby is too big to fit through the pelvis, or the pelvis is too small for baby to descend through. Now, what may have actually occurred if you had a C-section due to CPD, or if your provider or someone is talking about baby being big, is that baby may have relative CPD, which means that baby appears to be too large for the pelvis, or the pelvis appears to be too small, when they're not compatible with one another. So baby's head, you can see, is going to be widest front to back and then narrowest side to side. And the pelvis is going to be widest side to side for the majority of us. So baby wants to fit through this space similar to a square peg and a square hole. They're meant for one another, but if we don't properly align it, they're not going to fit. So if I try to put baby into the pelvis in a way that it's not meant to, so taking the widest part and putting it through the narrowest part of this pelvis, which would be front to back, or even OP, or the back of the head, you can see that baby is going to have a harder time fitting through the pelvis because we're not aligning our square peg to our square hole. But once I rotate baby into a more optimal position, so I line up the head to the pelvis, you can see that the baby's going to fit so much more easily through the pelvis. So baby's now going to be able to engage into the pelvis and then rotate to then descend and extend through. So baby's alignment to the pelvic levels is going to influence whether or not baby appears too large for the pelvis, because if we don't align our square peg to our square hole properly, baby's not going to be able to fit through the pelvis, even though they're meant for one another. Something else that could be occurring is baby could be presenting too large to the pelvis. So when baby's looking straight forward or even extending their head, they're going to present a much larger of their head to the cervix and to the vaginal opening. In addition, the bones of the skull on the top of the head don't mold or fold over each other as well. But if baby tucks their chin and tucks their head and they come into their head flexion, they're going to present a much smaller portion of their head to the cervix and vaginal opening. So they're going to present smaller. In addition, the bones on the back of the head fold and mold over each other much easier. So this is going to appear bigger while this is going to appear smaller. So the presentation of baby's head is also going to influence how big or small baby appears to be. So you may have heard stories of people who first baby was like 6 pounds and just didn't fit through the pelvis, and they were diagnosed with CPD. And then their next baby will be 8 pounds and just fly through the pelvis. And a lot of it may just be baby's head position. So if baby is presenting head extended or even deflex, they're going to present much larger, as opposed to tucking in the head, where they're presenting the crown of the head, which is much smaller. So let's take a look at my heart peg with my heart hole. So this is similar to baby. It's meant to fit through this space in a specific way. But if I misalign the heart peg to the heart hole, it's not going to fit through the hole. I can try to ram it, and it may start to fit through in weird angles, but it's just not going to quite get through the hole. Now, if I align the heart peg properly, it's going to fit through the hole. And so this is the same thing for baby. Baby is meant for the pelvis, but if they're not properly aligned to the pelvic level, then they may not fit through. So that would be relative CPD. Baby is not actually too big, and your pelvis is not actually too small, but the presentation appears to be so.